Good morning, Rabbi Isai. We're in Chicago, not in Mundelein. Big audience here in the Hatzalah headquarters. Tomorrow I still have to see. I might do 2 shiurim, 1 shiur, but I most likely will be in Mundelein. It takes like close to an hour to get here, close to an hour to get back. So I think for Tzarech the Mishpacha, we'll just stay in Mundelein, unfortunately. But we'll keep everybody updated. Here you have Shlomi Goldman in Funplex, New Jersey. This was an unposed picture, says Yisroel Goldstein, who took the picture. Beautiful. David Posner. My brother-in-law, Reb Dov Klein of Toronto, just started your daf when he tore his Achilles almost 2 months ago. He said that he has brought tremendous meaning to his days in bed. He's plowing through Yevamos. Couldn't walk for weeks and is now steiging. Here he is in Toronto airport, traveling to Atlanta for Pesach in a massive boot, learning the daf with you. Shkoyach, good Moed. Oops, where's the picture? Somewhere else. Here it is. Here's the picture. Gavaldik. Knee rover. Okay. Hamisha Bresler. Isn't this also Bresler? What did it say on that box? Yeah. Some other Bresler. So let me show you. Once we're talking about Bresler, we just got a gift, a Chalamoid gift. I'll read this. It says, he called us out, so we delivered. Ben Bresler. So somebody else. During the introduction to Daf 16, at the 5-minute mark of Chagiga, you showed the picture of our awesome custom-made knives we commissioned for our Siyum Amayit Cotton. By the way, the steaks were amazing. A few days later, during Daf Chaf Aleph of Chagiga, at 13:21, you looked straight into the camera when talking about MDY merch, explained Hilchas Chiyav Meiser MDY merch, and said, if you make a knife, I get a knife. We heard you loud and clear. They come in sets of 4, so enjoy with the team. These are toivel and ready to use. No, that means he made 40, no? He made 40 knives. Look at this. Rabbi Isai, it's unbelievable. We have tremendous gratitude for all you do to keep us dafing. Thank you. Shkoyach with brachas, the Boston Chevra, Binyamin, Hananel, Nachum, and Yisroel. Listen, if I really wanted, I would ask for other stuff. I would say my wife needs a new diamond necklace. It's knives, but look at these knives. These are not stam. What is this called? What did you say it's called? Who explained? Damascus blade. They take the metal and they fold it over many, many times, and in here is engraved Guy Videlio on one knife, and then MDY over here. I don't think Dylan could see, but it's there. And then different knives say different things. One says Nachman, one says Gary, and one says Amaritz. So, Yishkoyach Gadol, I appreciate the Meiser. Keep the Meiser coming when it comes to merch. Yishkoyach, here we go. Not much of an email writer, he says. I'm the hide and back type of guy. I wanted to speak about that yesterday. We were talking about Busha. I decided to speak about something that's relevant in the community, about Busha with Machlas, with Yena Machla. Certain communities, they're embarrassed to go to doctors and unfortunately could cause death in our time. So I spoke about that, but we also had the idea of Busha. When I called out people, I said, people are embarrassed to come to the live shiurim, to come to the siyumim. And when I said this once before a get-together in Borough Park, where 300 people got together, and maybe 3-4 people came over to me and said, I'm here only because you called me out. I'm one of those guys that's embarrassed. Okay, so I'm saying, and the guy told me today also that he's more of a baishan, he's in the hide in the back kind of guy. Please come forward because it's mechazik other people. They see you coming, the more people, more chevra, it brings more people out. You hear this, Rabbi Goldman? Thank you. Okay, but nobody knows what you look like because you're behind that mask over there. Where am I? Okay. However, you bring me in the family such joy, making part of the daf in their lives. We want to bring some joy as well. He's behind 6 days straight. I hurt my ankle, couldn't learn early in the AM. Getting ready, da-da-da. So he said, well, I did Yevamos is Chazara, I don't really have to catch up. Pesach coming, all these excuses, etc. Finally, he says, he started catching up. Then he noticed the giving share from the Alps. I thought, that's weird. But I'm still sure I'll get home before Pesach. There's Yisroel. I even asked my wife. She says she wants to go to share. I can. I'm sorry. To Eretz Yisrael. Then he noticed that I'm in Chicago, not Israel. Well, that is again weird. I guess he could still fly back in time. Second day of Chol Hamoed, I'm 3 days by watching every Pesach shir. Became pretty clear at this point, you won't be in Israel for Pesach. So basically what he's saying is that there's another good reason why to skip ahead and catch up later, because if not, he would have woken up his son really early in the morning to go on a Chol Hamoed MDY trip to see the shir live on Chol Hamoed, only for his son to be very discouraged when he showed up there and I'm not there, I'm in Chicago. So because he's with the daf, he was able to save himself that thing. So B'kitzur, he didn't want to look silly. Talmud, I don't know what it says here. Okay, I forgot his name. Amisha Bresler. Great. And here we have from Oland, Ishami Goldberg running to do the daf right after Yontiv. I think he needs a pair of MDY socks, he says. Okay. Here, let's see if we could blow that up. No. Next. Okay, the koilel for the month is anonymous in zechus of Hilben Sordino, Rivka Basfego. They should be zechus Zersha Kayama. Amen. By the Bresler, Austein, Rosenberg, Schulman, and Tobias families. I wonder if those are any of the Breslers that we spoke about today. The zechus Refuah Shlema, Rosh Yeshiva, Rav Yisroel Meir, Dovid, Ben Yocheved, Druck, Shlita. Seems to be doing great. He's even interviewing for the Avim magazine. So this thing is working. Baruch Hashem. Paras HaChodesh, by the Lock and Lebovic families, Lakewood NJ, because Torah is the best segulah. Paras HaChodesh, Nisan, is sponsored by Yoli. Eli Stefansky, Pinchas ben Moshe Yakov, Shalom. Eli Stefansky, Chayah Fruma, Bas Doi Pinchas Shalom. Eli Stefansky, Shraga ben Avram Alevi Shalom. By Ahron Fraiman, L'schus Parnasa, and Ziyad Shmaya, K'tiru Hatzlach to Rebelli. Paras HaChodesh, Ahron, for Hatzlach to the Magid Shir, video editor, Hatzlacha, in continuation, and not Mr. Shir. And the zechus nishmas from Yitzchok ben Yamin. Shalom Aleichem, Zoom guys. Shalom Aleichem, everybody else. We have a Gewaldige Daf, and here we are, Daf Mem Gimel Amud Aleph, in middle of Yevamos. Unbelievable. Still, the numbers of the people watching the shir in middle of Yevamos is, to me, it's very, I don't know, heartwarming. It's amazing to me. We were expecting a huge drop off in Yevamos, and Baruch Hashem, the numbers are very, very strong. And if we can make it through Yevamos, we can do the whole Shas, Be'ezer Hashem. Says the Gemara, we just learned the famous halacha that if you have an anonymous Mishnah, there's a Mishnah that doesn't say a name to it. So the halacha is like that Mishnah, if it's machlokes, then it's stam, the halacha is like stam. So the Gemara wants to see if that actually holds true to every single Mishnah. So the Gemara says like this, we're going to go on a little bit of a tangent. Simple stuff. It's a long Mishnah, like Taharis, but the point is, and even if you space out and you don't get any of it, which is very, very simple, there's no reason why you shouldn't, the point is that the halacha is not like this Mishnah. What's going on? I thought it's a Stam Mishnah, and a Stam Mishnah, the halacha should be like this. Okay, what is this Mishnah? But not, Masrik Shel Pishtan. So if you look on the screen, this is the best I was able to get. There's a picture of it in the art scroll. I think I do have that picture coming up later on. It's 2 rows of metal spikes that you comb the pishtan. Now, we'll see soon, the first row does a little bit more of the job, the second one just picks up the pieces. Shenitlu shinov. V'nishtayr boy shtayim tmeyos. Its teeth, spikes, the metal pieces were removed. Usually the handle is made out of wood. In this case, it's a 3D printed plastic. Okay. Anytime it comes to Tilchas Tum and Tyra, we know the famous halacha. If it's something that it's usable, it's a kli, then it's Mekabel Tumah. If it doesn't have a purpose, it's nothing. It has one tooth. What are you gonna comb with one tooth? Not tamei. It loses, even if it was tamei, the tumah dissipates and goes away. V'achas tahira, if it has one tooth, it's tar. V'chulon shenitlu achas bifnei atzmon tmeyos. If you have one tooth by itself, and as muchach from the Gemara later, you have to think to yourself, well, I want this one tooth. If you don't think, it doesn't do anything. Just one tooth broken off a comb is not tummy. But since you want to do something with it, the Gemara will describe different things you could do with it. You could, use it as a toothpick, pull something, pluck something, make something more taut. So Well, maybe I should move this. I see that it's cut off. Maybe that's the problem here. Oh. No? Okay, whatever. I don't need to see myself. If you have a comb for wool, so let's go to the next one. This shall tzemer. So he explains over here, I just threw in a ruler because based on what his explanation, it's a quarter of an amma. An amma we think is about 2 feet, according to the Achrayim. So a quarter of that is 6 inches. So this thing, it doesn't make a difference to us. We'll just give a scale to it. This is about 6 inches wide. It has a couple of rows of teeth. Similar to what we have today, like a brush. So the halacha is, Shenit Lushinov Achas Memintayim Tahar. If you're missing, like in this picture, every other one is missing, it's Tahar. It doesn't perform its job. It needs more teeth. Right? So far, very simple, and it's going to remain like this. Again, if it doesn't have enough teeth to perform its malacha, it's not a kli anymore. If it's not a kli anymore, it's tar, it loses its tumah. What'd you say? I did. I think, yeah, I said. Here you have 3 in one place. However, this is not good. We'll see in a second. If you have 3, you don't have any teeth, just 3 in one place, tummy. I just brought a picture of a typical comb in our days. As you can see, the outer 2 teeth are very wide, wider than the inner ones, and that's how it was in those days. So let's take a picture here. Going back to that, the outer one was a little thicker. That doesn't count as the 3. You have to have 3 inner ones. There's a corny joke, but it fits right into this sugya, so we'll say it. Why not? There was a very, very stingy guy who tells his friend, you're not going to believe it. I bought a comb today. He says, you bought a comb today? I can't believe it. What happened? He says, one of the teeth broke. He says, for one of the teeth broke, so you buy a comb? That doesn't make any sense. He says, yeah, it was the last tooth. I only had 1 tooth. And this is mamish, this sugya right over here. He has a comb. In the time of the Gemara, he held on to such combs. It only has 1 tooth, 3 teeth. 3 teeth, it's tamei, it's a kli. 1 tooth is not tamei at all. Says the Gemara, Nitlu shtayim, v'asan l'malkeit. Here, like this top. I know it's a little shvach. It's a photo of a photo. If he took 2 teeth and he put them together, made it like a tweezer, tameos, then he has a kli. Even achas, 1 tooth, v'skina l'ner, and he uses it to clean out the candle or limituach or to make some sort of leather taut, whatever he's doing with it, he has a use, tmeya. It's just like a needle. A little piece of metal called a needle is tamei if it has a use. Okay, so we went through the whole Mishnah, everything is great. The point is of this whole sugya is that we have a Mishnah, the halach is not like the Mishnah, and there's no name in the Mishnah. What is that called? A stam Mishnah, an anonymous Mishnah, and the halach is not like the Mishnah. What do we do? So the Gemara attempts to show that the Mishnah is a Mishnah Meshubash. There's a big mistake in the Mishnah, and therefore it's not a typical Mishnah, and don't bring a raya from this Mishnah. But the end, I'll just tell you the end of the sugya. It's not just 10 lines, it's very, very simple. Then we're going to say, you know what? It's not an anonymous Mishnah. There's actually a name associated with this Mishnah. And because it has a name, that's why the halacha is not like this Mishnah. Says the Gemara, Omarle, Bar Mino Dahi, that Mishnah is different. The Rabbi Yochanan and Rish Lakish, Damir Tavayu, Zu, ain't a Mishnah. Both Rabbi Yochanan and Rish Lakish hold this is a mistaken Mishnah. It's not a good Mishnah. One Mishnah at all Shisha says Mishnah. My time, Rav Huna Bar Menoyach, Mishmei, the Rav Idi Bar Berei, the Rav Ika. I'll tell you why. Mishum the Kasha, Reishel Seifa. You have a Kasha. It says in the Reisha, the Ktani Shel Tzemer Shenit Lushinov Achas Mibin Time Tar. If it's every other one, like this one over here, Tar. If there are 2 teeth next to each other in this picture, it would be Tame, it would be a Kli. only because it's every other tooth is in the comb, every other tooth is missing, every other tooth is there. That's why it's not a kli. But if you have two teeth together, it seems like it would be a kli. Then what do we do? By the time, then it says it seems like only if there's three together it's tamei. We have a contradiction between the Reish and the Seifa. On the one hand, it seems like two is tamei. On the other hand, two is tar. Ememela, it's a stira. The whole Mishnah has to go bye-bye. Says Gemara, my kushya, not a good kasha. I'll tell you why there's a difference between the Reish and the Seifa. So, in some cases, two is tamei. In some cases, two teeth are tar. Why? Dilmaha bigav yasa. The inner teeth are different than the outer teeth. Ha bebar yasa. The outer teeth do most of the malacha. So this is the picture. It's just a blow up of what you have in the art scroll, and I have Rishus to copy from the art scroll. Here you see the outer row and the inner row. You can see where the handle is and the angle of the comb. There's the outer row, the one that hits the pishton first. Tzemer, whatever you're doing, that does most of the work. The outer row does most of the work, so it needs more teeth. It needs the three teeth together. The inner row is just there to pick up the pieces, the strands that are left over. So even if you have two teeth, that's enough to make it tamei. Ela mahacha. So I'll tell you what the problem with the Mishnah is. That's not a problem. You ask me a contradiction. No, sometimes two teeth is tamei, sometimes two teeth is tar. If you grab one tooth by itself, pull it out, it's tamei. Even though you didn't say that it's for any particular melacha. It says one has to be there for a candle or to make a piece of leather taut. Which one is it? If you didn't put it in like some piece of wood, you weren't miyached it. You have to like not just hold it like a needle, but it has to be part of a kli. It has to have a handle of some sort. Then it's tamei. Mashma, without that, it's not tamei. So that's the contradiction. On the one hand, it's mashma, you don't have to be misakin it. The other side is mashma, you have to. So which one is it? Says the Gemara, Omar Abaye, my kushi, again, not a kash. Dilma bikatayu, havelai bikatayu. One has a handle and one doesn't. If it has a handle, then you don't have to be mechashev, you don't have to think in your mind, oh, I'm making this. So let's do the kash again. On the one hand, it seems like you don't have to be mechaven that this is a kli. A little piece of metal, it's tamei, whether you're mechaven or not. The other hand, it's mashma, you do have to be mechaven. So which one is it? Says Abaye, well, if it has a little bit of a piece of wood, they can hold it a little bit. Not a whole handle, but a little piece of wood left over. That's enough to make it tamei. Ha, beloy katayu, without any kind of handle, then it's not mekabel tuma. Omer Papa, my kushya. I'll tell you another pshat. If it's a very, very thin needle, whatever, tooth, then it's not makabel tuma. But if it has some thickness to it, I can do something with it, so it's makabel tuma. Elo mishum. And finally, Gemara says, the Gemara gives up. Not because the Mishnah is a problematic Mishnah. There's no problem with the Mishnah. It's a beautiful Mishnah. Elo mishum the misayim ba dafkane. There's people that are dafkaniks, meaning they're sticklers. We'll call them sticklers to halacha, to wording. You know those people. Every word and the chazer. So they have a Messiah that in this Mishnah, we have to finish it off, Divrei Rebbe Shimon. So it's not an anonymous Mishnah. The reason why we don't pass like this Mishnah, because it's a Yocheved. His name is Rebbe Shimon. And the rabbim argue on him. That's why the halacha is not like that Mishnah. So we don't have a contradiction to this halacha that the halacha is like a Stam Mishnah. The halacha is like Stam Mishnah. You found a Mishnah that the halacha is not like it. It's not a Stam. Every Stam Mishnah in Shas, the halacha is like it. Says the Gemara, Shalach Rebbe Chir Bar Oven, new sugya. Rabbi said, brand new sugya. Just showed up, brand new Shas. Beginning of Shas here. Shalach Rebbe Chir Bar Oven, Ma'ar Sin Toich Shloisha, you're permitted to get engaged within the third month. Over here, we have to, based on the Gemara later, Toich Shloisha doesn't mean any time within the 3 months. Again, we had a whole sugya for a number of days. We're talking about this. That after a person gets divorced, a woman gets divorced, or her husband dies, she must wait for 3 months. Basically, one of the ideas is to make sure that we know who the father is. The Raisa, Psukim, practical, Eshesach, different things. You have to wait 3 months. Comes Reb Chia by Ravin, and he says, you can get engaged, you're not getting married, but you can get engaged in the 3rd month. V'chein oisim maisa. I'm telling you, this is how we paskin halacha. There's people that got engaged in the 3rd month. They didn't wait a full 90 days. They waited 80 days. The great Reb Chanina said, what you do is 16 days, let's say 15 days of the 1st month, and another 15 days in the 3rd month. Bekitzer, you have a total of 61 days basically, and that's enough. So instead of 90, he's down to 61 days. Meir argues, and Meir says, no, you have to wait more than 61 days, but you don't have to wait 90 days. You can wait 89 days. You could do it, mix the same, 89 and a half days is good enough. How could you say that you could get engaged in that day? You have to wait 3 full months, in addition to the day that her husband died, in addition to the day she got engaged. 92 days, 91, whatever it is, but it's not 89. Rabbi Isai, I was thinking when I was reading this Gemara that I think a lot of times we're guilty a little bit of this. We do something, and then we look for the shortcut. We're talking about a person that waited for 89 days. So it's human nature to say, look, I waited already 89 days. You think HaKadosh Baruch Hu cares about the last day? No, I'm already there. Yeah. Ready? We're going to see. That last day is very, very important. The Gemara makes a whole fuss about it. I don't know what it is, whether a person waits 5 hours for fleishik and then he sees that ice cream and no, I read 4.5. A lot of times we take that shortcut. And we have to be remarkable. If the halacha says X, we do X until whatever it is, to the last moment. So the Gemara first says, this they have to wait 90 full days. It's talking about that famous case that we discussed. A woman loses her husband and she's nursing, so now she can't get married for 24 months until the baby is weaned off the milk, because the new husband will ruin the milk. In addition to the day that he's born, 24 months and 2 days. Now, very, very interesting, because remember, when I asked the question here and everybody's very sure, and they were right. So let's say you have an ultrasound. You know the woman is not pregnant at all. You have to wait 3 months, and everybody said, yeah, you have to wait 3 months. And the Gemara, in fact, said, Eliyahu comes and says she's not pregnant. We don't listen to him. The halacha is you have to wait 3 months. However, in this case, seems to be a little different. The 24 months that we wait is different. The Pesach Tshuva has a shayla whether in our days, since women typically do not nurse their children for 24 months, yes, once in a blue moon you see a case like that, but people talk about it and they make fun. It's not a common thing. Do you have to wait in our days 24 months? And it's different than that case of Eliyahu Navi. Now this, Rabbi Isai, I want you to think about this child that I saw in the Achronim. There's a famous Gemara of a guy that lost his wife, and he davened, and he was able to nurse his baby. And we said that even scientifically, there's a case like that in our days. Gemara and Brachas. So what do you guys think? There's a din in the Rishonim here, in the Achronim. Do you have to wait 24 months? Does this husband have to wait 24 months in order to get married?
Can't get pregnant.
V'lei plug. So what? And a ktana that can't get pregnant? We said lei plug on a ktana. She has to wait 3 months. No? Anybody? What?
Let the Achronim deal with this.
You don't have anything to say? No, I made it up. I made it up with the Shaila. It's not in the Achronim. Stam a shtus kasha. Okay, fine. You almost got me there completely, and I was able to get out of it. You almost caught me there. Okay.
He said it's
What?
He said it's an uncommon case. So
They're not guys are an uncommon case. Okay, very good. Zog the Gemara. Where are we? Okay. So we finished that? No, Vilchasa. No. And this just shows the point. That when Chachamim say something, when the halacha says something, I mean, okay, I don't want to say there's some Hasidim in the room, but if you have to like daven by shkia, yeah, shkia, you don't. That's the cutoff. Besides, if you have Kabbalahs and minhagim different way, but whatever. Okay, I don't want to go there. That's controversial. But halacha is halacha. You can't cut corners in halacha. And here, this guy tried to cut a corner. He tried to get married beyond Tishim. He didn't wait a full 90 days. He waited almost 89 and a half. You know what happened to him? Rava took bleach and poured it all over the food of the chasana. Ruined it. He taught him a lesson. He said, you can't mess around. You have to wait 90 days, not 89 and a half. Says the Gemara, so when it comes to a woman who's pregnant and nursing, she has to wait 24 months and 2 days in order to get married. And the 3 months that a woman waits to get married you have to add to that the day that her husband died and the day of Erison. So you can't cut corners and do 89. You have to wait 90 plus. Says the Mishnah, Chutz minha almana. Rabbi Yossi argues, and Rabbi Yossi says, we're going to see exactly what Rabbi Yossi holds. What Rabbi Yossi holds, we'll see that he basically argues with the idea that you have to wait 3 months. But an almana, a widow, just lost her husband, she has to wait 30 days. Why? Because she's an almana. She just lost her husband. She's an avelos. She can't get married during avelos. So this is the kavachomer that we're going to be dealing with a little bit. So he makes a kavachomer. If during a time that you're not allowed to wash your clothing, you're allowed to get engaged, meaning during the 9 days, you're not allowed to wash your clothes, but you're allowed to get engaged. Why are you allowed to get engaged? So this really threw me a little bit for a loop. I'm still not 100% happy with this, but Rashi says that there's no simcha in Erison. Now, the best I can understand it maybe is their Erison is always everything they did is one step away from what we're doing. What we call an engagement, they call chiduchim. What we call Erison, they call, basically, their Erison is our kiddushin. Their Erison is, they gave a ring at the Erison. But, so, they knew who they're getting married to, they had a whole l'chaim and everything by the shidduchim. So then they have this middle step called Erison, they give a ring. What we do is the whole chas and everything by the chumah, we give a ring. But that ring does nothing for them. Then he goes away for a year. It's not his wife. So what happened? So to know who your wife is and there's the Ein Simcha Katar Sasfekis, he's all excited. That happened by the Shidduchim. By the Nisuin, he takes her home. What happened by the Erison? It's not a Simcha, says Rashi. It's not a Simcha. Whatever that means. So in Mela, you're allowed to get engaged during the 9 days. Mokoim Shemut El Chabes, by the way, you're allowed to get engaged on Tisha B'Av. You're allowed to get engaged on Tisha B'Av. Why? What? Shemi Yiked Ben Acher. The Shulchan Aruch Paskins. Shemi Yiked Ben Acher. It's based on Yerushalmi. Shemi Yiked Ben Acher. So they say that because of Shemi Yiked Ben Acher, the Shemi Yiked Ben Acher is like a very vital thing. It's like, also, it's something that you don't have to be so chayshish for. So a guy, they're dating, they want to get engaged. So another guy's going to step in? No. So for that, you're allowed to get engaged on Tisha B'Av. So Avad, if you come to shul, and there's a piece of cake there, before davening, you're allowed to eat it. Shemi Yiked Ben Acher. That's what they want to tie now. Okay. Zog the Gemara. So here's the Kavachomer. If at a time that you're not allowed to wash your clothing, you're allowed to get engaged, Mokim shemutal l'chabes during the 30 days of Avelos, not the first 7 of Shiva, but during the Shloishim, shemutal l'chabes, you're allowed to wash your clothing, and you didn't shemutal l'aretz. So certainly should be able to get engaged. That's the Kavachomer. Now, where does it say anything about washing clothes? Ma'i desnan. It says the Mishnah, Shabbos shechal Tisha B'av b'soicha, the week of Tisha B'av asal l'saper l'chabes. You're not allowed to take your haircut and wash your clothing. Ubechamishi mutar, if Tisha B'av falls out on Friday on Erev Shabbos, then the only day available to wash your clothing, l'kavet Shabbos, is on Thursday. So then it's mutar. So now in the beginning, the Meir understood it's the week of Tisha B'av. They do less business. Melisa umelitain, from doing business. Melivinois, vilintoya. These are special. We learned about this, right? The special buildings that they made a little chuppah house for the chassan. Vilintoya, they would plant a special tree, one type of tree just for the chassan. Arson, you could get engaged on that week that you can't do any business. But you don't get married. You get engaged. And you don't even make a suda, but you get engaged without a suda. Right. No, that's klar. That's klar. The suda is a simcha. When you bring all your friends, that's a simcha. I'm just saying, I was just thinking about myself. Oh, I had a very happy day to get engaged. Everybody's mamash b'simcha, make phone calls, get engaged. You heard who got engaged? Get. Isn't that a simcha? But I think to take off that simcha, we have that simcha by our engagement. But that already happened by them by something called shidduchim. And the erusin is some sort of in-between thing. Nishtahi, nishtahari. He gives her a ring. No, what happened? Nothing changed. They're engaged already for 4 weeks. They're not gonna go home together. He goes to yeshiva for a year. Up to a year, we're gonna see mamish. They leave each other and finish. Shalom Yisroel. So maybe that's why it's not such a big simcha. Okay. Says the Gemara, so we have a kavachomer. So why can't you get engaged during Avelos? Says the Gemara, Kitanyahi, koidim de koidim. Oh, that's a week beforehand. And a week before Tisha B'Av, you could get engaged, and you could also do clothing. Says no kavachomer. You wanted to prove to me, look, you can't wash your clothes, but you could get engaged. So certainly where you could wash your clothes, you could get engaged. In both cases, you could wash your clothes and get engaged because we're not talking about the week of Tisha B'Av. We're talking about koidim de koidim, 2 weeks before. By the way, a Meir de Shlomo Zaman Auerbach, I thought it was very, very, the week of the 9 days. We're talking about the 9 days here, the week of, and even before, the week before, 9 days. He says, my entire life, people called me up and asked me, is there a heter to take a shower during the 9 days like this and like that? And everybody wants to know the heter. His entire life, his entire career as a Rav, nobody ever once called him up to ask him, can I take a shower during the Shiva of my parents? Nobody's ever asked him that question. Why, when it comes to Shiva of parents, nobody has a Shaila and everybody's asking to walk around smelly? When it comes to the 9 days, it's only the Beis HaMikdash. I need to know, but maybe because I'm schwitzing, do I have a heter? So, hara. Says the Gemara, wait a minute. Okay, you're right. You dropped the kavachomer from laundry, but I have another kavachomer. What about business? You're not permitted to do business, but you're allowed to get engaged. And it didn't. Shemutar lisa so certainly in a time like the shloishim, people go back to business. During the shloishim of Avelos, you should be able to get engaged. Why do you say you can't get engaged during those 30 days? The Almana cannot get engaged, Rabbi Yossi says. Right? Go back to Mem Aleph if you want. Mem Aleph, Amud Aleph, the last words on the Amud. Rabbi Yossi, all women should get engaged. Chutz min almana. She needs 30 days. Why? If you could do business, you could get engaged. Kavachomer from Tisha B'Av. You could get, you can't do business, but you could get engaged. So certainly when you could do business, of course you could get engaged. Ela ema kol hanoshim yinasu. So all women, not they can't get engaged. What he meant to say is all women could get married besides an almana. An almana can't get married. So I have like this. Just time like to do a little bit of a seder here. It's not hard. We'll do it slow. We'll see. The Tanna Kama says, I did red, blue, green. Now it's color coordinated. Green is mutter, red is osir, blue is para, in between. So we have the Tanna Kama says that going from an engagement to another engagement, to become engaged after I was engaged, somebody was engaged, lost her chassan. Tanna Kama says she cannot get engaged again for 3 months. An engaged woman is not pregnant. There's no way she's pregnant. We're talking about frum people here. You're not allowed to have relations during engagement. I'm not talking about our engagement. Their engagement. With a ring, it's osir. They have to have nisuin. So there's no chashash of pregnancy? No. Tanna Kama says, loy plug. If people are going to make mistakes, they're not going to chap, eris, and nisuin. Once you're engaged and you lose a husband, you have to wait 3 months. That's osir. Refuah says, and that we learned yesterday, and we said that was Rabbi Yossi also. To go from Erison, anything that has the word Erison in it is good. So you can go from Erison to engage, lost the husband, to getting married. You go from getting married and lost the husband, being married and lost the husband, to getting engaged again. Nobody's going to confuse the two. But Nesuin to Nesuin, I should have made it red, is Asr. Rabbi Yossi says, even Nesuin to Nesuin, he doesn't hold this whole waiting period. There's no waiting. There's no Isser. So I don't know who the father is. No, big deal. He doesn't hold of it. He doesn't care. So you could even get married immediately. A woman loses her husband, you wait, and then you get married. You don't have to wait 90 days. But everybody agrees, that's if divorced. But everybody agrees that if it's an almana, you have the 30 days, you have to wait. Okay, that's what we're holding right now. Says the Gemara. We're turning to Daf Mem Gimel and Beis. Sponsored by Moshe Horn in honor of Jolly Joe Kraus and family, and honestly as a zechus for Moshe Yakov ben Shoshana, and both Ruchnis and Gashmias, Yeshiva for the new sponsor. Says the Gemara, V'lesler Rabbi Yossi la'afchen. What do you mean? He says you can go from Nisun to Nisun. A woman gets divorced. Alamana, she can't because she has a technical problem. She's in Avelos. But a divorced woman just got a divorce. Shalom Yisroel. She found a new shidduch tomorrow, next day. What? You don't have to differentiate between who the father is? Says Gemara, Leslie. Yeah, you're right. He doesn't hold of it. No, he does hold of it. If she's engaged, she's an arusa, engaged in those days, who got divorced, she could get married because there's no havchana, because there's no relations. So then what in the world? Rabbi Yehuda in the Mishnah and Rabbi Yossi in the Mishnah are saying the same exact thing. Can a married woman who loses her husband get engaged? That we see right over here. Nothing changed. So we'll go to the next chart. Rabbi Yehuda, Tanna Kama on this chart don't change at all. The only thing that's changing around a little bit is Rabbi Yossi. Rabbi Yehuda holds that there's no gzeira of an arusa. We're not concerned that if a arusa is allowed to get engaged right away, people are going to confuse her with a nesua. No. So you can go from nesua to arusa and from arusa to nesua. Rabbi Yossi saw by nesua asur le'ares. Put him in red. To go from a nesua to erusin is asur. However, grusha from erusin, that we just said, if she got divorced from an engagement, then she could get married without waiting. Says the Gemara of V'sover Beis Nesua Asur Liares. You're telling me that if V'sover Beis Nesua Asur Liares, V'tanya Beis Yomer, Kol Anashim, what did I just say? Nesua, Nesua to Erusin is Asur, but Erusin to Nesuin is Mutter. So how could you tell me that Rabbi Yossi says Nesuin to Erusin is Asur? A married woman, because what's the chashash again? He does hold of havchana, according to this. He holds that if she's married, she might be pregnant, so she can't get engaged. Is that true? Anybody could get engaged. The only problem is an almana who has to wait 30 days for avelos. This is a complete contradiction to what Rabbi said before. But Rabbi here is saying that you do have to wait. Before we said, remember a top line on the Amud. The Leslie he doesn't hold of the idea of differentiating between husbands. Leslie, he doesn't hold of it. Look what it says here in this brisa. Rabbi says, there's avchana of 3 months. Okay. Says the Gemara, so over here you see that to go from Nisun Le'eris is not a problem. Says the Gemara, my kusha, why are you asking me from a brisa? You have the same wording in the Mishnah. And we said, the Kimna Barusa is Grusha Isinasu. We said that it's already talking about something else. You let it go from engaged and getting divorced from engagement to getting married. That's not a problem. That's what it means over here also. The same wording in the Mishnah is the Brisa, and we already fixed the Mishnah a little bit. We already explained what the Mishnah means. So we'll explain the Brisa. Element Seifa. Here's the problem. You have to wait 3 months. In Subehu they can't get married. They could get engaged. So you're telling me that you cannot go from Nisuin to Erusin. It seems like you could go. You could get engaged. You just can't get married. Says the Gemara, this is what you have to explain. This is the explanation to the words. Kol arusois grushois yinasu. All engaged women who got divorced from their engagement. You see, we're talking about a different type of engagement. Today we break an engagement. Over there, you can't break an engagement. There's a ring. It's like what we call today kiddushin. It's a different step. That's why you can't really call it engagement, but that's the word. It translates to Hebrew. Arusa is engaged. But you have to get divorced. But we'll see soon, it's different halachas. You don't do tumah, you don't get the inheritance. You're not married yet, but it's a step in the right direction. It's different than just engaged. Kol arusa is grushois yinasu. Chutz min almana mipnei ibol. Vekami ibol shela shleishim yoim. Says the Gemara, Nasuis leisarsu ad shielem shleish chadashim. And a married woman cannot get engaged until she has 90 days. Ask the Gemara of Almonim and Erison mi isla ibol. How could you tell me that we're talking about a widow from an engagement from Erison? She's not chayv in avelos. Ishtoi arusa. If she's only an arusa, she got a ring, but she's not married. Loy oinen. You don't perform aninos. You don't have the halachas of aninos. V'loy metamela. And we already explained this to be during one of the pshatim over there was during Yontif, mamish like today. During then, you're not metama b'chein hilo, you're not a loy, v'loy metama loy. Also, we have to understand what it means that she shouldn't become tamid to him. The bottom line is they're not married. There's different halachas. Mesa in a yarsha, if she dies, he doesn't inherit her. Mesu, however, goyvik subasa. Since there is a ksuba, you see, there's something going on there. Whatever erison is, there's a ring, there's a ksuba, there's certain things. Yes. What? Yeah, that was also one of it. Yeah. Says the Gemara. You saying that's what metamala was? No, that was something else. Then another thing. Yeah, very good. Ella, it could have been like 3 days ago. I just don't remember. What was it? 2 weeks ago? Maybe less. Ella Tanoihi. So the Gemara going back that you could go from Nisun to Erusin. So back to this chart. Not this. You see the red one? Rabbi Yossi says red. Nisun to Erusin, no good. Now we're going back. Rabbi Yossi says Nisun to Nisun is good. Go back. So, but the problem is that we had a kavachaymer. We're trying to get out of the kavachaymer. You could do business if in a place you cannot do business. Before Tisha B'Av, you can't do business. You could get engaged. So certainly during the avelos, when a person loses a husband, when a woman loses her husband, she could do business. So certainly she could get engaged. What do I do with this kavachaymer? Says the Gemara, El Tanoi, the Sanyo Mirish Chodesh Va'adatainis Ha'am Mimatim Iskeim. Okay, from Rosh Chodesh until Tisha B'Av, you have to do less business. Melisa umilitin, milivnois vilantoya, umiliores. Oh, That's it. End of story. No kavachomer. It says in this brisa, and this is how Rebbe is going to hold. He has a Tana that holds just like him. You cannot do business, and you can't get engaged. Your whole question is, you see, you could get engaged even though you can't do business. So then an almana should be able to get engaged because she could do business. No, here's a brisa that says you shouldn't do business before Tisha B'av, and you don't get engaged before Tisha B'av. Not like the Shulchan Aruch passes that you could get engaged on Tisha B'av itself. You shouldn't get engaged. Finished. And Rabbi Yossi holds like that. Umelisa, of course, for getting married. Shabbos Chal Tisha B'av b'soicha asel sabel lechabes. The week of, you can't take a haircut, you can't do laundry. The whole month. Gets to the 9 days. You see, here, what Reb Zalman was talking about before. Who said that getting engaged means to get engaged privately? I don't know, like what we call maybe a proposal, like a private affair. We're talking about making a whole l'chaim, a whole vart, a whole suda, and that's a massive simcha, and that's what's awesome. But maybe just doing a private thing and saying you're mekudesh to me, whatever the lashon is, that's okay. Says the Gemara, okay, but since erusin and nesuin is in the same sentence over here, look what it says. It's melisa umelitain, milivnois vilintoya, and umila ores umelisa, to get engaged and to get married. So you're telling me to get engaged means privately, nobody sees it. It's not a party. So then getting married means it's not a party. Maybe you could get married without a wedding. Don't do a party. Get married in the 9 days without a party. Not true. The etzem fact that you're taking this woman home to your house. Some people, it's the happiest day of their life. They get married that day. Forget the wedding. They don't even know about the wedding. Nobody cares about the wedding. She became the wife that day. The Gemara takes it for granted. There's no simcha by the engagement. Now I'm thinking about it even more. Maybe in those days, I don't know how much dating they did. I don't know how much they knew each other. Maybe there's no simcha. I don't know. Somebody will explain it to me.
She was then bound to nobody. She couldn't get married to anybody, not to him. He's not marrying her, and she can't get married to the shuk.
Yeah.
Because she's bound to him, so she's nowhere. He goes to Medina Sayyam. She's potentially an aguna who never had a husband.
So why is that a simcha or not a simcha? It's not a simcha. I hear.
Okay, then we better explain it better.
Okay, the bottom line is we still have a kavachomer that Erusin should be mutter. If Erusin is mutter during the avelos of Tisha B'av, so then it should also be mutter during the avelos of the 30-day avelos when somebody loses a loved one. There's a difference between an avelos that's thousands of years old and people are used to it every year. Nachamal, Tisha B'av, Halavai, we should feel it. To avelos of a loved one. Look, you see people literally crying and adults are crying and they break down and this and that. That's an avelos that's fresh. Whereas Halavai, we should cry for the Beis HaMikdash. B'shani avelos the Rabbim, ma'avelos the Yocheved. Also, when all of Klal Yisrael, Tzaras Rabbim, Chatzit Tanchama. It's when everybody is in a tzara, so that's half of the nechama. Where an individual avelos is different. That's why during that individual avelos, so what's the fear is here? Erusin is mutter during the avelos of Tisha B'av. Let's see. Says Rashi. Elo Amar Rashi. No, you don't have to come on to the machlokes Tanoi. Rabbi Yossi Moed Bahid Ma'arsim, and he agrees about Meir Erusin. Who the kashel kavachomer shani ben avelos chadasha the Tisha B'av the avelos yishana the avelos the Rabbim hilkach kilo. No what? Yeah, exactly. Well, also it's old Avelis. So people, yeah, but it's all you're saying is that it's sad. It's a good reason why people are makel, but at the end of the day, halavai, we should cry for the Beis Hamikdash like we cry for the loved ones. Rabbi Sai, have a wonderful day. Tomorrow we'll try to update Dailam, but just assume we're not going to be here tomorrow.